What's up, everybody? Aaron Smith here with Keller Williams Advisors Realty, and we are doing an interview today with my friend Peter Zimmer. Peter, what is up?
How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good.
I'm living a dream. I can't complain.
Man, we're in May. The weather's good and the market's good, so nothing to complain
I came
about.
right out of the gate with like the two most cliche things you could possibly say. I'm living the dream and I can't complain.
Living the dream. Well, we're about to find out what that means for you. Living your
That's
dream.
right.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been friends for a while now. I think I came to the office back in 2013, and we've kind of we've gotten to know each other a little bit. But for those that don't know you, how long have you been in real estate, and what kind of led you down that path?
I think this year is year 14. I think, which is starting to be. You start getting into those teens, and you're like at first it was like, oh, I've been in business for a while, and now it's like, oh, I should have done way more than I've done. I'm 14 now. It's so I think 14 years, and I kind of tripped backwards and landed in real estate. I was in Dallas, Texas. I'm from Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area. And I was in Dallas, Texas for a couple of years and wanted to manage property. I don't know why I wanted to manage property. It's a whole separate question.
Well, I think you had some family history in
I wanted to own rentals. I figured, I just read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, young college kid with ambition. I'm like, well, I'm clearly going to be managing my rental portfolio. So I might as well have a business that manages others. And I quickly, I realized, okay, so I had to get my real estate license to do it. So I got licensed in Dallas. Very shortly thereafter, moved back home. And I was like, well, I'm gonna have to do that here. And of course, there's zero reciprocity between Dallas, Texas, and Northern Kentucky. So I immediately embarked on taking all of the classes again. This was in the early 2000s. This was before the internet. Like I had to.
So all 96 hours in a classroom again.
Of repeating all the things I had just learned, except for a few tweaks and differences. So. Got my license, very quickly realized that property management was not my cup of tea. And for a couple of years was just doing some handyman construction work and kind of dabbling in selling real estate, and got to sort of a fork in the road where I'm like, I need to go full time in one direction or the other, and sat down with an agent who is still a good friend and mentor today, and kind of talked me into doing the real estate game. So awesome. It was not because I watched HGTV and I was like, I really like houses.
Yeah, you got into real estate before HGTV was even created.
That's right.
All right.
So it's been a fun ride since then.
So 14 years in the business. It's 2019. Just for the sake of relativity here, what's your production level?
So I've got a small team. We're hovering around 75-ish units a year for the last couple of years. I don't know what that is volume. I think, 12 to 15 million. It is early May. We've got our 17th closing of the year tomorrow, which will put us, I think, I'm looking over on my other screen, just over 4 million for the year so far. What I'm excited about is that is our 546th closing total.
Wow.
So I keep a running total, and that's something I would encourage everybody to do. It's kind of fun.
Like
it's
a little ticker
to do.
Like a ticker. Like every time you close a deal, it's like a bell goes off in a new.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. It was a task after a couple of years to go back and have to count it all. So if you're starting fresh, start a cumulative count.
Have like scratch marks in your wall behind you.
That's right. There's blood next to them. Yes, that's what it took.
Awesome. So, yeah. So quite a successful business, and I know you've built a brand around your team, and one of the things I love about your brand is that people, when they see your stuff, they kind of identify with you and your personality. So that's huge. So 14 years in, you mentioned, some mentorship there, and you kind of fell into that. And I guess my question for you is, what has been the biggest contributor in your mind to your success thus far?
I would say how I treat people who send me business.
Okay.
I think you and I have been licensed for about the same amount of time. And you remember, like, it was like 07-ish, 08-ish. The bottom dropped out. You couldn't find a deal with a search warrant.
Right.
And I just remember I was on a team of a guy who I still have profound respect for. But I would get a lot of the sign calls, a lot of the internet leads and stuff like that. And that grind was something that started to wear me out. And I was working my database and knocking doors and sort of doing all the things that you got to do when you don't have anything and you're still hungry. And I remember, I don't remember the phone call, but I remember the feeling of the first time somebody called and they're like, hey, I'm friends with so-and-so, and they said you're the person to buy a house with. Let's roll. And I was just like, this is great. Like, for in the moment, what felt like seemingly no work, knowing that there was a ton of work going on behind it. But I just remember, like, my heart and my attitude towards the person who told them to call me. And I'm like, from that day forward, I'm like, I want them to feel what this feels like. Like, I want them to feel the weightiness of the gratitude I have for them extending their relational equity on my behalf. Like, that's a big freaking deal to me. And so
how do you show that gratitude to them now?
So, I mean, in the simplest of terms, it's just thank yous, follow-ups. I do a small gift card at the front end, regardless of how the referral pans out, because I want to reward the behavior I want to encourage. And then on the back end, when they're seemingly not expecting anything after the closing, I tend to send them a pretty elaborate, extravagant, what I want them to at least receive as extravagant of a thank you. Because I kind of want to reproduce that same, like, really, you didn't have to do this moment of when the referral first called me. But then it's also shaped, like, the touches through my database through the years. Like, I don't spend much time, effort, energy, or resources chasing strangers. Like, a lot of my business is geared around database, around relationships. Like, and I know that, like, different personalities that, like, people are like, that's what I want to be like. And other people are like, I would rather cold call than call a past client. So I am on the disc. I'm an IC. Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFP. Color code, I'm a yellow. Like, I don't like, when I've done it, it's like, I like touchy-feely relationships. Like, those are the things that have meaning for me. And so all of those things mixed into the same stew started to shape the type of business that I wanted to do.
Awesome. That's cool.
So I would say that has been the most profound impact on my business, is just my posture towards referrals.
So you mentioned something I want to go back to for a second, kind of off script here, but you mentioned that when you got into the business, you started on a team, and we'll kind of leave out the names to protect the innocent there, but
yeah, I'm happy to share. It's up to you. I mean,
I think let's go more concept than anything.
Okay.
So you kind of have a path, a couple different paths you can choose when you get into real estate.
Yeah.
Right. You could be a solo agent. You could go on a team. You could work for a salary, like as an administrative assistant or a runner or something like that, just to try to, get your bearings in real estate. Obviously, you jumped onto a team.
Yeah.
Good, bad? Like, a good experience, bad experience? What would you recommend to people who might be considering that?
For me, it was foundational. So I had been, like I said, operating as a single agent for a couple of years, just kind of dabbling in it, essentially. Sat down with that agent mentor who was not licensed in the state I was licensed in. Otherwise, I probably would have just joined his team. So he had recommended another agent. Hey, you need to go meet with him, join his team, learn the business, do the reps. For me, that was crucial. I look back on my first couple deals as a single agent, and I feel like it was borderline malpractice. Like, I didn't know, like, you know how it is. Like, I didn't know, like my first closing, we did the walkthrough and they pull up and start loading stuff into the garage. I'm like, wait a second, you don't own this house yet. I don't know what to do. So for me, that was, like you could read the MREA, the Red Book, right? And like reading a book is you could liken that to sitting down with the author. You could read that 50 times. It's kind of like sitting down with Gary Keller. Joining a team of someone who's operating those models you're just getting exposure to the nuts and bolts of a good real estate business. So for me, it was great.
Good. All right. Awesome. So switch gears for a second. Big question that I love to ask is, what habits are you using every day to contribute to your success?
So along the lines of all those personality assessments, I'm terrible at discipline. I'm terrible at accountability for myself and others. So any habit is a difficult thing for me to form. But some of the things I'm doing today, it's May. It is whatever you can do to get face to face, to have a relationship with. So for me, my business is my database. So working my database, making those phone calls, and really phone calls, right? Like you can do all the touches. Like you can, like the email newsletter you sent out 6 months ago, I'm sure was awesome. That was 6 months ago and they've forgotten about it. Like our I don't know the audience to this, but you and I are in the same brokerage. Our team leader recently talked about this concept, which was really profound for me: emotional proximity, right? Like being in proximity to them at the point of decision. So like you may have done awesome touches in November, December when they weren't thinking about houses. Now they are, and your competitor is calling them. Like they win on the emotional proximity front. And so it's like now, like I keep referring to, it's May, like it's go time, right? Like it's spring market. Everybody, this is another thing that our team leader said, I think a couple years ago, that's always stuck with me. The people who are moving this year know that they're moving this year. Like it's not going to surprise them. So they know, it's already forming in their head. They might be in your database. Their friends and family might be in your database. And so they're having those conversations. And so you just got to be top of mind. You got to be on the front end. And so back to the question, those are the habits of trying to, the high quantity, low quality touches are a good sort of baseline throughout the year. But like strike when the iron's hot, it's like the low quantity, high quality touches. Those are the ones I'm trying to get.
So talk to me really quick about low quantity, high quality touches. What are a couple? Just
so low quantity, high quality is whatever you can do to be face to face, on the phone, belly to belly, to create or nurture relationships. Right? Like that's not happening with an email newsletter. That's just a light ping of a reminder of who you are. Right. But when you call and you're like, hey, how's it going? And, you know, I used to shy away from, I used to sort of apologetically stumble into those conversations where now I'm just like, hey, it's 3:30 on a Wednesday. I'm making a prospecting call. Do you know anyone looking to move? If not, great. Have a great day. I'll get you off the phone as quickly as possible. But I'm not apologizing for like the expertise I bring and the business I'm trying to build. And I'm going to be authentic and straightforward with you. I'm going to be transparent about my purpose. I'm not going to be like, how's your kid? How you doing? Oh, sweet. What's Ford, right? The FORD.
Family occupation.
Recreational dreams. And then backdoor do you know anybody looking to move? I'm like, I see, like there's a time and place for that. But I think if it's like 11:30 on a a.m. on a Monday and they're at work and you're at work, they're like, why are you calling me right now about my family? like I'm calling to build that business. So I'm kind of all over the place, but those are the low quantity, high quality, right? Like sometimes it's, you can only make 3 calls because you're on the phone with somebody for 15 minutes. That's a worthwhile call. The other habit or mindset I'm in right now is you take every appointment, right? Like none of us really know. Is the market shifting? Is it not? We thought it was at the end of last year, and now it's sort of still has that frenzy feel to it. but you still, like, you got to get out there. You take every appointment regardless of what it might turn into. I always say it's the $50,000 buyers who have $5 million uncles. Like,
Yep.
you don't know where it's going to turn into.
Well, and then every appointment, whether it's an appointment where you're about to write a contract or you're about to secure a relationship with a client, you're either securing the relationship as a seller or a buyer, or you're building a relationship as far as just getting to know somebody better, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So another question that I love to ask is so hopefully you remember how you felt when you got into the business.
Yeah.
What do you think when somebody gets into real estate? For you, what was the biggest surprise jumping into the real estate business?
It's so much work. I distinctly remember, like, in the first couple of years of kind of getting my feet under me, I'm like, this is so much more friggin' work than I expected it to be. And it's, you come to find out 80% of the work has nothing to do with real estate. 80% of the work is what we just spent the last 5 minutes talking about. It's the touches, it's the relationships. It's doing all you got to do to get a client. And that's when it's like, now I still got to find the house and have to negotiate and I have to get through inspections and deal with lenders and title and appraisal and scheduling a closing and that stupid title company info sheet that everybody said. Like, you got, like, all of that is just 20% of all the work that's involved with being a real estate agent. And then even then to the consuming public, we're still sort of viewed as a necessary evil. So it's at most a necessary evil. So yeah, I think that was not shocking. It was jarring to me. I was like, I thought you just kind of ran around sprinkling real estate fairy dust and selling houses, and it's great. It's a lot more work than I thought.
Yeah, you're right. It's like jumping into cold water because it's like, oh, well, I know this person and they're an agent. They seem
right.
Seem like they're doing pretty well. And then you jump in and it's like, holy crap. There's so, like, I always refer to it as you're trying to take a sip of water out of a fire hose. Right. And it's just like, you can't catch up. I mean, it's a lot.
Well, that, and like I said, it was like 07, 08. It was like, it's work now. And it was a lot of freaking work then. Yeah. You just couldn't get it's hard.
I like that quote. You couldn't find a buyer with a search warrant.
That's right. You're just like,
awesome, man. Well, so if you could give anybody who's either getting into real estate or they just started their career, what advice would you give them?
Well, I definitely advise them or warn them about how much work it is. I would give them the advice that you are going to get emotionally hurt. Your best friend is going to use somebody else. Your past client is going to use somebody else. Like that, no matter what you do, that's going to happen. And any seasoned agent would immediately be like, yes, it's happened a ton. And the advice would be, no matter what, take the high road. Don't burn bridges. It's just the reality of the business that we're in.
Yep.
You're at it. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. It happened to me last week. A friend and a past client of mine said we're gonna sell our house on our own for sell by owner.
Right.
And they used the photos that I paid for to market their property on Zillow as a for sale by owner, and I had two choices. So just let them know that I'm here to help them. Right. When and if they were to ever need me, I've got your back 100%. I'm committed to helping you. Or do what my reaction was to say, well, hey, don't use my photos and that sort of thing. When it's like, you know what, you got to come from a place where it's like, you got to give without asking in return, because you never know.
That's a normal human reaction, right? You're hurt, so you just want to hurt back.
Yep.
Don't use my friggin' pictures then. Go buy your own.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. I just today had a conversation with a buyer I've kind of been nurturing. He's like, hey, this house fell into our lap. It's not listed yet. It's going to be listed by this other agent. I reached out to him to see if we could get in before it's on the market. And so now I find myself trying to navigate this conversation about the benefits of having your own representation, like all the scripts and dialogues that we're sort of like throwing out. But I'm just like, I find myself behind the eight ball on somebody I've been working with. Like, it just, It just happens. And so any new agent, I would just prepare them. It never feels better. It always hurts, and it will always happen.
Yep. Okay. So prepare yourself emotionally.
Yep.
Make sure that you're prepared for the amount of work. Any other advice that you'd give somebody thinking about getting into the business?
I think if you can nail the work thing down, you're in the clear. That's one thing agents don't love to do. Yeah, I mean, there's practical things like map out at the beginning of the year what your touches are going to be through the year. If you're newer, to create a schedule where you're previewing properties, you're getting familiar with the product, you're getting familiar with the paperwork, kind of all the onboarding stuff. But yeah, if you're getting licensed, I would say there's a lot you can do before you're licensed. Organize your database, come up with a plan, start working on announcement stuff and all that.
Well, and one of the cool things that we have at our brokerage is, you know, if somebody's taking their real estate classes and they want to come in and take Keller Williams training for free,
right?
They can come in and do that. We don't charge admit. We don't have a gatekeeper at the front door that's going to say, well, you can't come into our class, because we know that if somebody invests the time into their business before they ever get licensed, that they're just going to be more productive when they do get their license, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah, it took me that was one of my takeaways when I got licensed. I'm like, all the classes prepare you to do only one thing: pass the test.
Yep.
They do not prepare you to have a career in real estate. And there's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do before you're licensed. That you're not practicing real estate, but you're starting to pour that foundation. And so avail yourself to all that training that's available that actually prepares you for a career in real estate before you take that test and get licensed. Like, there's just a lot. I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to go into real estate, work on classes, get licensed. Great. Now what do I do?
And they start cold.
Months you could have been working.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've always advised people, like, the sooner you can start building your skill set and your mindset and your and your database and all that stuff around business. I mean, then you got a really short runway. Like, you start your career because your license hits the broker's account, and then day one you're showing houses and writing a contract on your first day in real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
So awesome. So changing gears now. What's your favorite business book or real estate related book?
There's two real estate books that have been foundational to how I've shaped my business. One is the MREA, which I'm sure is that's everybody's.
Short for Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's Gary Keller and who else?
Dave Jinks, and did Jay Papasan write that, or was that before his time?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was Dave Jinks.
Yeah, Dave Jinks.
Clearly he didn't write much because everybody just attributes it to Gary.
Right.
Sorry, Dave. So the Millionaire Real Estate Agent and a book that is by Michael Maher, Maher, called The 7 Levels of Communication. And it's a guy who built, he was arguably the most referred real estate agent in the country. So he built a relational, like, this is how you build a business on referrals. I think he had maybe 50 people in his database doing several hundred deals a year. And so he just talks about, like, how you treat people and, like, how you build a referral based business. Yeah.
And I remember one of your team members at the time had handed me that book and said, you know, you got to read this. It's a great book. And the book sat on my shelf for probably 8 to 10 months. Yeah. And when I finally picked it up and started reading it, I kicked myself for not reading that book the day that they put it in my hand.
It's good.
It's such a good book. So 7 Levels of Communication. If anybody's listening or watching, that is. And
it's written like a story. That's what, like, it's a short, relatively short, easy read.
Like a parable, I think, or something.
Yeah. Versus like Millionaire Real Estate is like Millionaire Real Estate Agent is like models and textbook. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, man, good conversation. Thanks for your time today.
This is great. This is very affirming and and honoring to me. Makes me feel real warm and fuzzy.
Well, you look warm and fuzzy. But anyway, so in case somebody's watching or listening and they want to reach out to you to just kind of learn more about you or maybe have some questions for you, how do they get in touch with you?
The internet.
Zimmergroup.com, I believe.
I'm on the internet. Yeah, you can go to Zimmergroup.com, which one of the leaders here in my office just recently today stopped by to inform me about how my website is not in compliance with the local board.
Nice. Okay. Well,
go to Zimmergroup.com and see what you should not do. We've got a pretty fun Facebook page, facebook.com/Zimmergroup.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you later.
See you, Aaron. Thanks, man.